Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, organizers of the SEMIC 2017, colleagues, and all attendees of this conference. As the speaker from the host country, I would like to start by saying merhaba, which is in Maltese, and translates to a very warm welcome to you all. Our next presentation is about the National Data Strategy. I have been given the privilege and the opportunity to share this experience with you. And for this, I would like to thank the organizers. Thank you. In the short time we have today, I will try to highlight the main points and the links of the strategy to the base registers and the once-only principle. These are very important enablers and very high on the digital single market and the data economy agendas and programs of works. At the same time, I do not want to leave out the current efforts under the Free Flow of Data initiative, including the structured dialogues with member states and other stakeholders on the elimination of the legal and administrative barriers about data ownership and liability issues. The overarching framework of this enterprise data initiative is the Digital Malta 2014-2020 strategy. And as explained earlier on by the Parliamentary Secretary, it's our overall vision, which will take us until 2020. And one of the main pillars of this strategy is the public administration. In fact, this is the main focus area of our data strategy, since we understand that unless the public administration itself is addressed from the outset, it will not be possible to design and implement improvements aimed at the other pillars, namely the citizen and the business aspects of our economy. Thus, the name of the main document is Data-Driven Public Administration. And this suggests that we are also inspired from the EU communication on data-driven economy. So I think it's not surprising at all that we are also following with great interest the developments at the European level in these domains. The first of the National Data Strategy documents was initially published in July last year, almost a year ago. And it was published as the localized guide for the Share PSI project. And I am aware that in the audience there are also some members from this community who, for a period of about 2.5 years, worked and attended meetings in different countries and cities and shared experiences on how to create best practices for the implementation of the PSI directive. The data strategy documents were then opened up for broader national consultations during the whole month of August last year, using the then Social Dialogue Ministry website for the dissemination and for the feedback. Before it can be officially launched, it is being further honed and fine-tuned and is now at an advanced stage of internal technical discussions regarding its implementation and the impact it is expected to have on our existing systems. Regarding the fact that the published documents are still carrying the watermark drafts, please rest assured that this does not mean that we have any lingering doubts about the validity of the main guiding principles or about the main building blocks included in the accompanying document called National Data Infrastructure, or the litmus test of the strategy, which is the third document entitled Best Base Registers for Enterprise Data Sharing. Now, for the short quotes we were asked by the organizers to submit together with this presentation. For me, it was rather easy to go for the following Latin maxim, quod non est in registro, non est in mundo. A Latin maxim, as you might know, is a concise legal term which articulates and encapsulates time-tested principled foundations of Roman law, which are still applicable today. In my opinion, this statement of compressed wisdom is very appropriate and applicable. I firmly believe in this statement because it captures perfectly the spirit of the proposed strategy, since we have official records and official registers. And what is not included in these registers has no effect. Also in Latin, nulla ab initio, or as we can say in English, a non-starter. For simplicity, I have added a simpler, more direct, no register, no identifier. And this should serve to remind us that we cannot hope to have a stable record identifier, which is also universally recognized and accepted, unless there is also a system of register which is supporting it. And this lack of basis for persistent identifiers can, in my opinion, be the source of the resulting issues or problems we may be facing today in our information systems. I also discovered that the SEMIC of 2014 had one of its quotes saying, "Persistent identifiers are more important than data models." I must admit I fully subscribe to this kind of philosophy, although data models are also important. Now, I had the temptation to say many challenges instead of main challenges there, because yes, we have many challenges ahead of us, and we need to solve them. And I have no illusions, mainly because we are proposing a change to the present modus operandi, and we are trying to change the status quo. Our data strategy is proposing a new approach to the way we look at systems. It's a new approach and a paradigm shift, mainly from talking about systems and databases to talking about registers and processes. Yes, we still have many legacy systems operating as part of our critical infrastructure, and in future, we may well be procuring new off-the-shelf products which will not allow schema or interface changes, a situation which may not help us moving in the new direction either. So the solution, in my opinion, depends on the effective reuse and the sharing of data at the enterprise level, together to eliminate the duplication of data, maintenance, and data-related processes. The first step in this long-term project is, and some of my colleagues will usually understand what I'm saying, the register of registers. This is a national inventory of data, which needs to be given the same legal basis and ownership status as the other official registers currently coming from the laws of Malta. The list is already published and contains in excess of 400 titles. At the core vocabularies level, I can say that since about 5 years ago, Malta has fully participated on the various working groups dealing with core vocabularies, namely the person, organization, and location, and the others, although the names can vary slightly. You can see business instead of organization. Sometimes we talk about the citizen instead of the person, but actually it's the same thing. The other items on this slide should be easy to understand, but I want to say something about the last item, which is definitions. Definitions and interpretation statements can be very tricky. And for those of us who were participating last Friday in the virtual meeting on the core public service vocabulary, I am sure you can attest to what I am saying. I think Michelle is somewhere here, and we have discussed this. We spent a lot of time trying to discuss one definition for what is a public service. Agreeing between us was not easy, and to agree on a final statement that defines a public service so far proves to be rather elusive. My suggestion last Friday was, can we live with more than one definition for the same term, as far as these definitions are not contradictory? I would say yes. However, the ultimate objective of our strategy remains the efficient and effective delivery of public services, and the once only principle, as this is one of the main contributing factors for the simplification and reduction of bureaucracy. The once only principle, as you know, dictates that information that is already held by the public administration is not requested and maintained again and again and again. But I would like to emphasize, the fact that it is not requested and maintained again and again doesn't mean it cannot be stored again and again and again, as far as we are storing the data without changing that data. So as far as it is stored locally or in the line of business system, and there are no changes being done at the line of business, so it's okay. We are okay with the once only principle. Now, I'm coming to the principles and guidelines included in our data strategy. The slide contains 12 titles here, which are pretty easy to understand. And I don't need to go into them because there is in the document a short description of each one of them. What I would like to point out that the order in which they are listed here gives you an idea of how they should be tackled. And obviously, number one should be the first objective we try to follow. Legal basis, classification of data, arriving at number 12. But there is one overarching objective in all this, and it is actually the number 10, which is linked official registers. And I am borrowing this from the linked open data mantra. I'm transporting it to linked official registers because I believe that if you have official registers containing official records and they are properly linked together, that is the secret, that is the solution to the once only principle implementation, because you will be sharing the base data, the master data, and even the reference data at the right level. And this will facilitate what goes on beyond. One of the key factors that underpin our data strategy is a very comprehensive data classification scheme. But also, I am aware that we cannot start with a very comprehensive scheme that makes it impossible for you to classify our official registers. So I am suggesting in the document that we start by classifying under the three main pillars of person, geographical location, and organizational unit. And this, as you can see, aligns to the three main core vocabularies we have discussed earlier. So starting small and aligning our registers to the three main vocabularies is the first step. The vehicles, I tend to put them under location, but that is a point also for interpretation and for discussion. What is being suggested as another facilitator is that from the outset, for each register we have, which is, as I said, over 400 of them, we just implement the data sharing traffic lights classification, which should be easy. If a data set, if a register is classified as red, it means you have person details. And we need to think before we can sort of open up the data as open data. If the data set is green, usually it is a candidate for open data. The trick is when you come to link between the two main pillars, when you have a link between a person and a geographic location, when you have a link between a person and an organization, that can start to get a little bit messy. Again, it's about integrating the public administration. And the message from this slide is that we need to have a number of platforms which interact with each other and feed on each other and supply services to each other to treat the public administration, the government of Malta, as one enterprise. And again, I am borrowing from the legal, organizational, semantic, and technology. I'm not lost here. It is the paradigm that we need to follow. First, the legal aspects, organizational, the semantic, and then the enabling technology. These are the main platforms. We are starting with the National Data Discovery Platform, including the Open Data Portal and the internal data sharing services, the metadata middleware platform, the authorization and representation platform, and the foundation data layer, which is very high on our agenda, where we are implementing OPM Circular 312016, which is mandating the reuse of the person and the postal address across all systems in our public administration. The slide, I don't need to explain it. It's the tip of the iceberg. So yes, the strategy is only the tip of the iceberg, and most of the work lies beneath and is hidden. And what lies hidden below is what matters. So I'll skip that. This is our philosophy on how to move forward. I don't need to go through those lines, establish the base registers, and what have you. So that is the way we intend to move forward from now on. For those of you who need to go into the documents, there is a link over there which will take you to the MITA website where the current documents are hosted. It is our plan that once the data portal is implemented, everything will be shifted to the new data portal. And that is all I have to say. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'm ready to answer at a later stage or now, as you will.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I believe we can take one or two questions from the audience or from Twitter if there are questions posted there. If there are no questions, maybe I will just ask one question myself to Joseph, and then I'll give the floor to our next speaker. So, Joseph, one of the things that Yannick mentioned in his talk was that transformation really starts with culture change. And you said that you are already at the tip of the iceberg and there's a lot of work to be done below. And I was wondering, how are you changing the culture, the data culture within the Maltese administration?
Well, that is the main challenge we have, because the data culture at this stage is to have systems which are created in a silo mentality. And through the OPM circular, which is mandating the person register to be the core vocabulary which should be shared by all systems, which obviously need to have the person data included, and obviously most of the systems will need some form of person details. That is the first clear attempt, which has obviously Office of the Prime Minister sponsorship and championing, where we are following that directive, that circular, which is mandating the implementation of the person register. If that fails, I think that it will be a problem. If that takes off, then we can think of further steps in a gradual and non-invasive approach where we can implement the changes on a step-by-step basis.
Thank you very much. And Joseph will be here for the full day, so please take advantage and meet with him during the breaks. Thank you very much, Joseph.